Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon that we have in the sign of Leo on the 4th of August 2024. Now, first of all, this date, 4th of August, is not only important because of the Leo new moon that we have on this day, but it's also important because Mercury on this day stands still in the sky and prepares to go retrograde. So this marks the beginning of this Mercury retrograde season, where it begins at around 4 degrees of the sign of Virgo, and then it will retrograde back into the sign of Leo. I am not 100% sure the exactity of the degree towards which it will retrograde back to, so I'd rather not say something that is untrue. But it's towards the middle of Leo, something like that. So this is quite specific. This is quite significant and specific, not just in the context of a new moon, but also in the context of Mercury retrograde. So right off the bat, without even taking into consideration any other detail, what does this in itself suggest? Well, Leo new moon, Leo the heart, right? Heart space, passion center, creative center, children, royalty, kings, those people who are in the spotlight, so VIPs, depending on which perspective we want to look at. But no, long story short, Leo is what is in the spotlight or what provides the light, if that makes sense. So a new moon, a new beginning. And if we add to it Mercury, Mercury being in its home sign of Virgo, a place in the sky where it loves being in. It loves being there the most. So immediately, Mercury is really, really cerebral. It is at its most powerful, especially because it is standing still. So its symbolism amplified. Yes, we do have the shadow quality, Virgo, the overthinking, overanalysis, the perfectionism, the detail. Sometimes the devil lies in the details, which complicate things infinitely. The fearsome side of Virgo, where it kind of fears everything, even things that it shouldn't really. And the very, very meticulous and also cold, rational nature of Virgo. However, in this circumstance, it might not be a big problem because there is a strong Leo emphasis in the sky. On one hand, the new moon, which means the sun being very, very comfortable in its home sign of Leo, and not alone, having the queen, his girlfriend, the moon, in his house. Now, if you think about it from a natural way, especially many bird species where the male actually has to make a very pretty nest because that will attract the female. Symbolically speaking, well, the sun is at its best in Leo. That's his castle, that's his home, that's the pride, basically, of his expression. So the moon, of course, is very much impressed by all this. The moon representing the queen of the sky if the sun is the king. So they are working together very, very closely to create something, right? Leo creational energy. This is where both the feminine, the moon, and also the masculine really not just put their powers together, their expressions together, their essences together. Leo, of course, also the sign of sensuality, children, the way children are created in a rather physical way. So this is a very highly creative energy. And then also, Mercury is being invited back into the home of the sun, the king. Even Mercury is under, the rulership of the sun in a not necessarily in an astrological way, as in the sun is the primary source of everything that we basically have in any way, shape, and form. So the sun is basically our king in that sense. So where I want to go with this, Mercury the ration with the power of Virgo, so down to earth, mastery, knowledge, contemplation, but contemplation is going to be a massive keyword for this new moon, but I'll get to that a little bit later on. The mercurial type of contemplation, which is rather intellectual and based on strong facts, if possible. So Mercury's expertise is being reinvited. So whatever the sun and the moon are creating, it will have a good dose of Mercury as well, because that's why Mercury is going to go retrograde, to get it right. Virgo is the sign of mastery, right? Repetition, doing it over and over and over again, but each time with a little bit more proficiency. Or Virgo is where trial and error. If we need to solve a problem, well, we have to go over every approach that we can think of if a solution doesn't exist yet, or if there is any specific knowledge, if there is any specific information, know-how, mercurial stuff available. Of course, we're using that, and if necessary, innovating. Mercury retrograde is really, really good for innovating, but in the sense that we go back on we had in the past. So let's say past information, know-how, knowledge, methodology, what we learn, and we refine it. Either we update it, or we personalize it, or we improvise, improve. A little bit tinker with that energy. So this immediately promises us that it's gonna try its very best, this energy, where this 12 degrees of Leo falls in your personal chart, which area of life. So that is where you can expect this. So whatever is being created, whatever is being born, or whatever in this case we might be trying to create or figure out, even, or because sometimes whatever is being created is just the truth. That is very specific to Leo as well, because if we want to know the truth in one's heart, then we go to Leo. Then we go to, well, even the sun, the ruler of Leo, what it's doing. So sometimes it's just a truth in the heart, but that truth usually is the most important, because that is what usually answers, do I love it or it, him, she, whatever, do I love or not? In which way I love, what this love means to me, what this love produces in my life, because Leo has an opposite sign, Aquarius, how lovable I feel or how much love I get back, etc. So what happens with the love energy, the creational energy, and if Leo's the spotlight, well, Aquarius is the public, right? Because no one can be in the spotlight without a public. So, it's Leo Aquarius axis, even though both the sun and the moon are in Leo. But whatever happens in one sign, indirectly it does cast something, a light, a spark, an energy, an echo, a shadow, something on the opposite side as well. So this is where, yes, we are trying to get somewhere, create something, understand something, come up with something. So we have the power of the heart, the truth of the heart, sun illuminating it, what anything, whatever means for us personally. And then Mercury is also going to add an intellectual, a very rational and down to earth, a layer to this understanding. So Mercury definitely helps. Or the creational energy. Mercury will go back on its shadow when Mercury retrograde ends and re-enter Virgo, and then soon it will cover new territory in Virgo. That in itself means time for action, time for application of whatever we came up under this new moon. So I do believe that the Mercury retrograde period will be very relevant to, the nitty gritty, get things right, find the right solution or methodology, know how, information, or do something personally, change things around in our routines, our physical life, how we manage time, our job, service. This, because of this Mercury retrograde, whatever this new moon represents, it will also affect services in a large sense. You know what I mean? Because Jupiter is conversing with the new moon as well, there might be an implementation of something which is more just, more fair, new laws, new rules and regulations, new methodologies, new something in HR on it or an industry. And because of Virgo and actually Virgo Pisces axis, this can also be a medical industry can be affected as well. We'll see how that plays out. But where I want to go with this is that Mercury retrograde and the period after, especially when Mercury will start covering new ground, is going to be also a very perfect period to build in a practical way on this new moon energy, to make it real, to, get it done, or whatever changes we made, or improvisations, improvements, innovations that to take effect. Now, another energy that is there, and I do believe this is the best word, it is there and very noticeable. And that is, of course, Venus at the time of the new moon being at 29-degree energetic degree of Leo. So a very, very important degree where it really, really, just like in the case of any energetic energy, it highlights the symbolism of Venus and makes it a little bit more radical. So Venus in the sign of Leo, well, it's really about what the heart wants, what the heart even needs. It is really about desire, but the passionate, fiery kind of desire. It is also about the expression of the self, the expression of love, value, generosity, um, the way we love, our own specific way of manifesting uh, this Leo heart based energy, what that means for us personally. So I find this also really, really important. And needless to say, this Venus at 29 degree of Leo is conjunct a really, really notorious and famous fixed star, Regulus, the star of kings. So something is gonna be happening there. Royalty, kings, VIPs, but with the presidential elections in the US and so many diplomatic, international, multinational events of different kinds. So, because I'm not just speaking about the conflict and war and stuff like that, there's in the world of business, economy, finances, arts, in basically any industry or any area of our lives, collectively speaking, the VIP energy and the big value, Venus. But usually, Venus in Leo either is gold in a sense of and that can be almost literal, the value of gold in a literal way, but more likely, symbolically, what is big value, what is really shiny, and you know it's not going to disappoint. This can be deeply individual. We are looking for the gold, the shiny, the real shiny, if you the noble in our lives, or collectively speaking, something happens in this sense. However, we apply the symbolism in the lives of VIPs, big people, youth, young, and Leo energy, and the youth and the young was really highlighted in the past couple of days. The Bangladeshi student protests, but this is not something, how should I say, isolated, because if you go back on either mine or any astrologers Pluto and Aquarius videos, so I have one as well, I said there that we are going to see the pain, the darkness, the shadow of the youth, and students are definitely one of the most important category because they are exactly in between the symbol, the energy, the expression of Leo, the young part, and Aquarius, the future, because they are the future, right? So that we will see the pains, the troubles, the hurts, the fears of the youth, and we have to respond. So Venus in an erratic position, the pain of the heart, especially of youth and students, where I want what I actually wanted to say with this, one of the main aspects is that Mars and Jupiter from the sign of Gemini are gonna sextile this new moon. Now, neither Mars or Jupiter are gonna sextile it in a very laser spot on way, as in exactly to the degree, but it's still very much operational because Jupiter is at 15 degrees of Gemini. So that's quite a operational sextile. While Mars is at 9 degrees of Gemini, that's also quite operational. Just that Mars is in the progress of perfecting its sextile, while Jupiter's is fading, waning, because it is after the moment of perfection. But it doesn't matter. Mars in Gemini adds the element of action. This really starts supporting Mercury, not just because Mercury rules Gemini, so Mercury is the ruler of whatever Mars and Jupiter are doing, so Mercury has to dish it out, but also because communication, action, uh, if Gemini takes action, well, the main choice is always with intellect, mind, words, communication, movement dynamics in a constructive way, in a Gemini, each air sign contains a bit of expression of any other as well. So Gemini also has the Libra type of diplomacy, just as Libra also has the Gemini type of whatever you want to insert here, the duality or the mutability or the uh, power of words, the quickness of the intellect, etc., etc. So this sextile, this series of sextiles is wonderful news because it supports the new moon. Fire, Leo, right? And also fire because the sun is at home. So really fiery, hot. And I want to say in a good sense, even though I know heat waves are also frying us here and there on the globe at certain places, but it's part of the deal. But fire, and that fire is fueled by air, big air, Jupiter, the expansive air. So it's really pumping the air in. And then Mars, the type of air that has more rich in oxygen, you know what I mean? It does things. So this can represent quite literally the power of love. But when I say love, and this leads us to another aspect, which is not directly with the new moon, but it is connected. Neptune holds a quincunx, in conjunction with Venus at the moment of the new moon. Neptune in Pisces at an erratic position, of course, it is exactly that boundless, limitless, eternal, divine love, the very principle of love, the divinity of love, while Venus in Leo is actually the passionate, fiery, kind of earthly and finite, of course, because no fire will burn forever, love. Speaking about fire, even though she is not part of the new moon directly, Vesta is also, goddess of the sacred flame, is also in Leo, so it's very sacred. This is where the heart is at its most either sacred or unholy as it can possibly get. And the reason I said unholy, well, some people, especially Leo energy representatives, so the public, in the public eye, the big king leaders, prime ministers, stuff like that, who are in the spotlight. Well, if you listen to certain oratorics, certain big speeches that they just had recently, or recently means going back to few months or even past year, it's so fake in the sense that it's so hypocritical. It's so not, how should I say? It's not convincing the heart at all. It might convince anything else, but not the heart. The heart is not convinced. That's the quincunx between Venus and Neptune. Because what if both of these expressions are there at the same time? You know what I mean? What do we do then? How do we feel about that? But this is exactly the quincunx. It is up to us, based on the truth in our hearts of hearts and the truth that we feel in the now. In the now, right now, who we are right now, not who we were, who we are, and not who we are becoming. No, no, who we are right now. That is what's going to give meaning to this energy. What type of love, or what is truly loving? Remember the oratorics and speeches. What is truly loving, or what is truly compassionate, passion Leo, and compassionate Pisces, Neptune? Well, it's where the heart will decide. So this quincunx between Venus and Neptune can add a tiny bit of confusion, illusion. I don't really know what I feel. I feel something. I feel it very powerfully, but I'm not sure exactly what to make of it. And because this is also a new moon, right? A new beginning, creational energy, where setting intentions is definitely the best possible idea, because Mars and Jupiter, anything that has to do with initiating, communication, speaking, reaching out, phone call, writing the email, reply. Sometimes it's the other way around. You get it. Replying in a serious way, using an opportunity in the wisest and most Gemini, tactically correct, tactically sane, safe and sound, if you will, way. And Jupiter, there's the touch of faith, there's the touch of optimism, there's the touch of hope, there's the touch of, but Jupiter is in Gemini. This is also realistic. when I say a touch of hope, that can actually mean the opposite, where you strip it from the pink rose tinted glass type of hope, and you grip on a realistic hope sometimes, but that's a blessing, you can imagine, because the big hope, where the hope is so powerful that it kind of takes you automatically there, just that you don't know how. That's Sagittarius, right? Jupiter rules Sagittarius. In Gemini, it is in the opposite sign, so it's furthest away from home. It's not comfortable here, so that's why it cannot come with where the hope is so big and strong and the dream is so uh, high that it takes me there. In Gemini, it has to come with, I hope, because it's rooted in knowledge and realism. If hope is rooted in realism, well, that's all. It's not as magical, fantastic, uh, elevated, and full of elation and pathos as the Sagittarian hope, but many times it's safer, sounder, more practical, and it's stripped of the bigness, but it works so beautifully well. For example, the Jupiter in Gemini type of hope energy is where, well, chances are if it worked for 80% of people or others, or it's also gonna work for you. This is where the opposite of, well, if it worked for everyone else, it doesn't mean that it has to work for you. That's more like Aquarius, the uniqueness. This is where it's different. If it's generally working, well, you can make it work for you too, because that's the sextile. Make it work. Mars, find a way, find a methodology, find what you need to do. You might have to, um, like shape and mold, play around the thought, the idea, the energy, the opportunity, the communication, whatever comes into play. You might have to, rearrange it a bit, make it your own. But the baseline is, well, it works generally, then chances are it can also beautifully work for you. So Jupiter and Mars come as help. But this Gemini energy can also be, well, a person, a in so very many quality. Maybe, Leo, you have a bright idea, a passion, something, and you consult a friend or a specialist, but just as a consultation, not doing anything yet, just asking a reflection of someone who you deem that they know because they're a professional or a special or whatever the situation. That might be a wonderful initiation, because who knows what the friend special, the other person, might come with. Maybe they will elevate your idea in a way that's beyond your imagining, and they add air to fire, so they will fuel it. Even if they send you to this and that person, and Venus and Heretic and Leo, even if it will have big costs, Venus and Heretic Leo, that is also the energy where you fall in love with something and you say, well, I accept the costs. Quincunx Neptune, remember the quincunx. Is it worth it or not? Only you in your heart of hearts can answer this. So, and maybe a person, because that's where we were, the Gemini energy, can actually get you there, guide you there. Their words or something that they speak, do, whatever, or where they send you, even if it has high costs, you are still closer to whatever it is that you're creating. Now, this energy, because of, again, the Jupiter and Mars in Gemini, is also very mental. So mind over matter in that sense. But if the mind and also the heart, if the thoughts are fueled with big passion, or it, vice versa, let's say, where passion is kept burning steady, alive by thought, or it can be simultaneously at the same time, because that's when it's big energy. It's definitely gonna be creating something. It's definitely gonna spark up something. Because we must not forget a new moon is where the moon is not illuminated, it is dark. So this energy is also quite good to, the darkness of a new moon, to eliminate something. And Mars and Jupiter can also help with elimination. For example, your, and I have to use the real example of my soul sister. Her exercise bike is broken. Well, if you fix it, you eliminate the problem, right? And you fix it creatively, or you find a right way to motivate your husband, to give your husband the inner fuel to go and fix the bike in a beautiful and practical manner. This is, for example, a really simple and almost a bit ridiculous, but it can be the gesture, the action, which by creating something new, a new state in the heart of her husband, solves the problem. And that means after the exercise bike is fixed, the exercises or the daily routine, again, Mercury and Virgo, is much, much more efficient and upgraded. So Mercury solved the problem. But this is such a simple example. Put it into context how it might work for you personally. Because as I said, this might lead us somewhere, or this might be actually a creation energy. But we must not forget the love and passion and truth in our hearts is the main component. That's what matters. Whatever we are doing with this energy, we are doing it for love or truth or something within our heart. And Venus, Quincunx Neptune, we really need to answer ourselves how or in which way is it worth it. And the Neptune, the big impossible ideal, the absolute, has to meet the real, the finite. But there are more minor aspects that also take place under this energy, and that is the new moon very tightly trines Salacia, dwarf planet Salacia, the wife of Neptune, so goddess of the brine of the sea. She is, the way I interpret her symbolism is that she is like almost like the fail-safe mechanism of Neptune. She makes sure that Neptune doesn't get way too either unreal or way too dark. And why do I say dark? Well, just think about Neptune physically being the ocean sea. The seas claim so very many lives and have always done so. And this is part of the deal. This is part of our relationship with the sea. It has to absorb us in that sense, symbolically, into spirit, just as many times the seas give. They give from spirit, from the depths of spirit. They offer us the seas, oceans, the water equally kill, but they also feed in a literal sense. But they also feed emotion. They also feed in so very many different ways, not just physical. So that is exactly Salacia, the feminine side, which keeps this energy be as harmonious, as creative, as inspirational as it can possibly be. Another way to highlight Salacia's role. There is an old saying that mystics swim in the same waters that psychopaths drown in. Well, exactly. Psychopath, that's Neptune. Mysticism, that's equally Neptune. And Neptune in the sign of Pisces, the duality. It can be anything. It really, really depends on us and our subtle perception. Salacia is exactly that. The subtle perception, which makes it sacred. So that means chances are, as in, chances are greatly reduced for something to be um, psychopathic, in the sense that a really, really dark expression of Neptune, and for it to be more sacred, chances are that much higher. So Salacia is exactly like the salt in the seawater. It is the source of life, source of balance, and basically, from a spiritual perspective as well, the protection. It protects us from the deepest and darkest depths of Neptune. Okay, so thank you so much for this moment presenting Salacia, but she has also illusionary qualities to it, to her, just like Neptune, but it's more like the positive illusion, um, where something seems so very surreal. It is almost like when the universe is playing with us through beams of light, for example, sunlight piercing the corona, the branches of a tree, and how it reflects on the ground, how it plays with the shadows, or light reflected on river, lake, the sea. There is a totally surreal quality to those moments. Those are that connect us to the truly transcendent state. And even though those are in itself illusions, those hold power, moment, and sacredness. Of course, sometimes, don't get me wrong, Salacia has a dark side as well, the mermaid song. She rules mermaids. Well, this is where, is the mermaid a predator, or is the sailor's hidden lust or whatever makes him follow the song? Well, let me just put it like this. Would a sailor pay proper tribute to the spirit of the sea? Or let's just, to the divine, to God, to morality, to whatever, rest assured that something deep within himself or externally would protect him from the mermaid song. But the average sailor, well, it's like Pisces, the nobility and all that, but also the darkness. So actually, it's not the mermaid who is the predator, but the sailor's own unconscious. You know what? The ocean, sea, water, lake, or whatever is always, always in any astrologically or any esoteric uh, domain symbol of the unconscious and the deep emotions. So yes, Salacia also has a darker side to herself. Trine the new moon. So that's a fire trine. Aries. Salacia and Aries, the dream. Salacia at 11 degrees of Aries, very close to the North Node. So this means progressive. This means it's meaningful. This means it might be a dream of yours that you figure out how to give away and shape and form and how to express it. Why express it, Leo? Maybe your dream is already completed, but you need to reveal it. You need to express it. You need to let it shine. Like, let me give you a simple example. I have a friend who is really good at singing, and basically the universe kept on insistently hinting to him, take it a step further. And he did. And you can imagine that I don't necessarily want to say success followed, but a lot of unexpected opportunities did follow that really complemented where the divine, through the myriad of opportunities, even the randomness, the accidents, the moments when it didn't turn out perfect, the divine kept complimenting him. So this is how you use the energy of this new moon. Get the hint of the universe, because the universe is infinitely wise in a loving way, as Nadia Shah always says. It doesn't just guide, try to give you the big picture, like what it is. It also tries to hint at the right path or solution or methodology or how to go about things. Just that most of the time, and this is also supposed to be like that. A quincunx, this is a fine example of Venus quincunx Neptune. We just don't see it. It's right, like the Four of Cups tarot card. We're contemplating, but it's there under our nose, but we cannot see it. But that is also part of the alchemist journey, right? We're not supposed to see it. So it's no big deal. We're supposed to have that touch of naivety, because that makes the journey even more sacred. Salacia, right? Salacia, she guides us with the song, the mermaid song. Let's say that there are some times when the mermaid song doesn't lead to drowning or death or whatever doom and gloom. It leads to something really positive, okay? So sometimes the illusion, the Fata Morgana, it may not be what it seems, but it may be even better than it seems at first. You know what I mean? So this is where sometimes the hardest path is the right path, and the universe in its great wisdom and tolerance lets us first choose the right path, the wrong, path, for us to see why the hard path is the best for us personally. So again, Salacia can come through as a beautiful divine inspiration to help us to the best possible approach for whatever the nature of that creational energy is. May it be very real, practical, like artistic, like hobby, like project, anything creational. I would imagine that for many, I wanted to say males, but I'm just being a bit biased here. For many people where their male energies are strongly triggered at this moment, it might be a need, a desire to build something, engineer something, learn in a more elevated way a skill that they always use in their everyday lives, but how should I say? They actually wanted to keep it on an amateur level. They never thought of refining it. So it sparks a passion which is practical, useful, and even if it like doesn't lead to a big professional expression, still you don't know what hidden gems and treasures there are. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say a husband of someone has a hobby that they can turn wood or some woodwork like this, and they don't make a living or business out of it, but when it's the birthday of their friends, family, whatever, well, you can imagine that everyone wants the present from him. Because on one hand, you know that he made it by hand and that it's going to be something unique. And, well, there you go. That's much more valuable than any professional expression of this. So, this is what I'm speaking about: love, hobbies, creativity. To create something means love. Or why not Gemini, flirt energy? Some people are gonna how should I say, quantum leap from a flirt to something so serious in a few seconds, but no, in a very short time, that they don't even know what hit them. Venus quincunx snap. What happened to? I was flirting yesterday and now I'm in, I don't necessarily want to say in his bed, but in his arms, or, you know, I don't know, on holiday with him. There you go, Leo, siesta and the summer. So something might really be stirred up in a sensual or romantic way, because this is Gemini with Mars and Jupiter and it's very flirty. Leo, sensual. Sun, Moon, the divine king and the divine queen. Venus, the sensuality herself, being in Leo in a very highlighted position and erratic position. Venus just freshly, she didn't even finish yet her square with Uranus. So surprise, surprise. And Uranus is in Venus's home of Taurus, which means Venus was activated in a Uranian way. Venus herself was born from the family jewels of Uranus. You see the synergy here. She, even if it's hidden, even she has a very not ladylike Uranian quality to her. Unpredictable, improvisable. She obeys nothing. No, where they say love is free, you cannot control love, you cannot cage love. Love has a mind of its own. She does what it wants. She leaves when she wants. This energy is so very specific of that. This is when we see love have a mind of her own, especially that soon after the new moon, she conjuncts Mercury, mind of her own, Mercury retrograde. So this might even bring back an ex, someone from the past, an issue from the past. Um, so another element that I would like to, speaking about Venus, no, I mentioned quincunx with Neptune. Well, actually, she also holds an outer sign quincunx with Pluto, so that makes it a yod, finger of God, pointing at Venus at an erratic degree of Leo. What ends for good, we fall out of love with for good, but that's a great help. That might be the best thing that could have ever happened to us. Or what are the chances? Zero, and we fall in love. And it could never, ever in a million years happen either at the moment when it does, or in the circumstances, or with the person, or, and it still happens. But this can be any expression. I'm saying love, but put this where this falls into your chart, especially where Taurus and Leo are in your chart, because the Uranian square, remember? The Uranian activation of Venus. Venus has to dish out ultimately what Uranus is doing in Taurus. So that's value, that's love, that's even internal self-worth, worth, value, money, sensuality, all that stuff. And indirectly, this will also affect all of our relationships, Libra, right? Because Venus rules Libra as well. So it's more than meets the eye here, the yod. But yod also means it's fated, what God wants, really. So Again, this to me says we're being pushed into the right direction, even if it's weird, unusual, unexpected, or hard to see it for what it is when it happened. But no problem, Mercury retrograde, right? And trine Salacia, new moon trine Salacia. The illusionary factor is actually like a magic, like an allure, like a good fata morgana, like a good mirage. And then there is Jupiter sextile, where we mentally do with it what we know that it helps us, if that makes sense. Jupiter is holds a square and a half, a sesquiquadrate with Pluto. So again, more than meets the eye. Jupiter starts building the square with Saturn retrograde. Oh, sorry, Jupiter. Now, why is this important? Well, this energy is not super strong yet, but it will be in very soon after what's true and what's not. But you can imagine how this plays out in the present collective context. But this plays out individually as well. I believe something, right? I have a core belief, faith, or desire, or principle, or dream, or aspiration, or but you can put this religiously, spiritual, whatever you want. Finding the right balance. Saturn in Pisces, first of all, it demands very powerful morality. You are in the detriment of your own minimum and maximum, in the detriment of your own, how should I say, authenticity, what you come here with. Because you can imagine this energy will ask from one person to have the morality of a saint, and from another person it will only ask to not be a criminal for a time being. The difference of measure is heaven and earth between the two examples. This is why, but it's the same thing. It's up to the person's specifics. You know what I mean? But it asks us in our own specific standard, let's say, to be our most moral self, whatever that means to us personally, religiously, spiritually, in the sense of dignity, pride, whatever way, shape, and form it asks us that. And then Jupiter in Gemini also asks us to be open enough to the opposite, because this energy means for us to be at balance. We can only know morality if we understand in a very clear way the opposite of it and the limits of the opposite. This is where don't be judgmental. Like, let me give you an example. And this example came to be because Gemini rules travel. There is a situation where someone hits a pedestrian, someone traveling by car, because they have a big drop of sugar and they lose consciousness, or they lose their ability to drive for a second or two. That's enough. That's tragic for everyone. That is what it is. Even the legal system will have a certain kind of trouble dishing out a fair judgment, because it cannot be fair for anyone, because it is a tragedy, really, isn't it? It's an unfavorable circumstance. So everyone feels a bit sad for everyone involved. But imagine if someone who is a really, really, really deviant person is under the influence of substances out of sheer terribilism, not because they necessarily need it, just because of that mindless fun, and they hit the same circumstance. Oh, it's gonna be so different. So different. The collecting feeling about it. Sad, yes, but there's also gonna be a lot of rage and a lot of what this says about society and stuff like that. Where the first example has totally different reflections to it. That sometimes life is chaotic and we still have to find a way to move on with our lives, go forward and enjoy the. But the second example, the same thing, right? But it speaks of totally different things. This is the best example of how Saturn and Jupiter hold their square. We have to look at the specific, what it says. We cannot apply the same pattern to everything, even if it's the same situation. We really need to look at the background. Saturn in Pisces to look behind the scenes, and Jupiter in Gemini, but also look at strict realism. And why did I use this example? Jupiter is the planet of law. Saturn is ultimately, which does the executioner of the law. So yeah, and you can imagine that because of the Saturn in Pisces, anything that happened with COVID in COVID period, because Pisces is the medical system, shadow, secret, laboratory, stuff like that, is really gonna be debated now, but not debated if it's true or not true, because we're over that. Who pays? And there is going to be efforts to put that back under the carpet. Jupiter and Gemini, other people will do the opposite. No. This is not going to be solved in a passive way. This needs coverage. So, but sorry about these big, insignificant details. What I want to say is the Sabian symbol of this Leo new moon. It's so beautiful. An old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. Old sea captain. So we immediately have someone who lived so very many Leo type of experiences. Why Leo? Well, on one hand, captain, the head of, on his ship, he's the king, he's the VIP, he's on the spotlight. And even off ship, who takes responsibility. But Leo is the adventurer. A sea captain usually gets there in that because of passion, calling of the heart, relationship with the sea, right? And that's Leo, the passion, the adventure, the risk. Every day is a risk. Leo, the sign of risks. And also, you do have to have a young heart. You do, but going forward, rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. The contemplation, reliving each and every second his tumultuous, numerous adventures at sea and different sides of it, the dangers, when he lost crew members, maybe, when the sea was at its harshest. But it can also be love story, sensual story, because a sea person has so very many different expressions of his seamanship. Or it may be he even met the mermaid, a mermaid, and remembering that timeless moment. But what does the contemplation do? Mercury retrograde, it adds a layer of new wisdom. It adds a layer of more power, and it adds a layer of more personal satisfaction and joy. He's an old man, so he's living the final cycles of his life. But you see how going deep within his memories in the immortal moments, the risks that he took, the feelings, how what the fires of passion did for him in his life and heart, well, those make him a fountain of knowledge. The shining light, Leo, those truly make him a king of his own castle. As a human being, as an elder, as an advice giver, as a grandfather, father, as a sage, even. So I find this so beautiful. What does this mean? Whatever new beginning there is, or whatever we want to initiate, create, promote, solve, wisdom and Mercury retrograde. Whatever Mercury brings back in our lives, let's contemplate it deeply, because it can make us that much wiser, that much stronger, that much more intelligent, basically. And another energy that I would like to speak about is that this new moon is conjunct a very unusual asteroid, one which is not all that mythological even. This asteroid is named Sauer, Sauer, a surname. But when working with asteroids, sometimes the best thing to use their designation numbers. And this asteroid has a designation number 9248. So Sauer 9248. And this asteroid is at 11 degrees of Leo, and it is named after a really, really Titanic. That's the best word to use, probably. Scientist named Carl G. Sauer Jr., who was very relevant in propulsion technology. Thanks to his work, many asteroids and celestial objects could be studied, because I do believe his work was used also to propulse space shuttles and satellites, the type of satellites which traveled, for example, around in certain missions where satellites were mapping planets and stuff like that. But you get where I mean. You get where I'm going with this. His work really, really helped propulsion in any way, shape, and form. May that be planes, may that be reactors, even radioactive reactors. So what does this mean? Something new, a new invention perhaps, but something a bit extreme or shocking. Remember that Venus is after her square with Uranus. In air travel or space travel or fusion or I'm is it China who has the artificial sun? Something new in the realm of science, of course, and specifically those domains where this gentleman called G. Sauer was uh, a father of, a promoter, an inventor of. So everyone who might be interested in this, all you need to do is just look at what he's done, especially if you're interested in that part of technology and aviation and stuff like that. And you can see what this new moon might quantumly or in a larger fated way bring into the world by making someone be passionate within those subjects. But symbolically speaking, in a different way, propulsion. That's good, isn't it? Because it quantum leaps us somewhere in feeling, in creativity, in love, in, for example, people who want to have a child, Mercury retrograde, they will have the clarity to really know what decision would be the wisest for them personally. Remember the yacht formation. Maybe for some people, the wisest decision is not right now because of reasons you will find out. Or for other people, this is where it's time, or in which way, or how, and Venus relationships. This new moon will also affect relationships. How? Again, the yacht. We have to wait and see that part of the energy. And you remember that Venus is after her square with Uranus, so it's supposed to be a bit chaotic and maybe starkly truthful. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to. Thank you so much for listening. And as a final thought, the power of love. At this Leo new moon, this is where love is powerfully creational. This is where love actually can manifest in so very many different ways. Mercury retrograde, okay, it's not under our control, but being a portal to love and compassion, and basically like a sun in the lives of other people, that can definitely. Oh, and of course, the Leo Aquarius axis, we are responsible for the reality that we fuel, that we keep in existence, basically. So the more love we add, the more we cement it into not just our reality, but the collective one as well. So thank you everyone for listening. Until next time, bye for now.